As a babysitter, what was your okay? That's the last time I babysit for this family moment. I was asked to babysit for a friend's relative. I was told that I would be looking after a 7-year-old and a 5-year-old, and they were calm, easy kids. I said, sure, no problem. Famous last words. I get there and the mom just hauls her butt out the door, yelling at me over her shoulder that she would be back in 5 hours. Now here comes the WTF moment. Remember how I mentioned I was told there were 2 children? Yeah, no, there was not. In fact, there were 5 times as many children. Yes, you read that right. That woman took off and never said a word about the fact that there were more of them, leaving me to look after 10 fucking children, several sets of twins, all under the age of 7. There were 3 or 4 sets of twins, and they were like 10 to 11 months apart. And then there were the babies. Honestly, I can't remember anything but the rage and anger I felt. So there I was stuck with 10 children. I tried calling the mother, but she kept sending me to voicemail. I was so angry. I was ready to call children's services. The children were all around screaming for whatever reason. So I said, fuck it. I'm in it to win it. I want to make them something to eat. I changed the diapered ones, pied the older ones, and then let them go play in the backyard for a while. I was still seething with anger over the blatant deception as I cleaned up the kitchen. But it gets better. No, it doesn't. 5 hours later. No, Mom. Okay. A few minutes late. No big deal, right? You know that isn't the case, or I wouldn't be telling my story. I tended the children, toileted and changed them, fed them, baths, and off to bed. It's now almost 9 p.m. Mother is still not back. I'm furious and incensed at this point and beyond. I keep calling the mother, and my calls go unanswered. Ticked, I call my friend and tell her to call her relative and tell her to call me or come home because I am beyond ticked at being deceived this way. My mother never came back that night. So the next day, I met it again. I call everyone in the family, including my friend. No answer. So I said fuck it and called the police. I explained the situation, and they said they would send someone. Nothing. I spent the next day looking after a tribe called Quest and could get no one to relieve me. I was so angry, I couldn't see straight. These children were just a handful. I remember screaming at them to sit down somewhere, and the neighbor heard and came over. I explained the situation to the neighbor. What the neighbor said next shocked me. Oh, she does this all the time, said the neighbor. She lies about how many kids she is because no one would ever agree to look after that many children. The neighbor glanced at me. You know, she might not come back for a few days, they said. She does this so much, no one will watch her children anymore. I couldn't say a word. I ended up stuck with these children for nearly 5 days. I called the police and children's services and made it clear that either they send someone to deal with the situation or I am leaving and the children are on their own. I didn't really mean that. I was just angry that no one is helping me, and I am sick and tired of being there with them. So after 10 minutes passed forever, a cop finally drags their butt over and makes an appearance. There was this lady with them, and they came in to talk to me. In the meantime, I was still tending to children. It wasn't their fault. It wasn't until the children were being loaded into a van that their mother finally decided to make an appearance. She saw the police cruiser in the van and literally freaked out, screaming at them to stop. They ignored her and kept loading the children into the van. I stormed over to where the mother was, ticked and ready to kick her butt. What the fug is wrong with you? I shouted at her. I've been stuck here with your children for dang near 5 days when you said you would be back in 5 hours. And you can bet but you will be paying me every single dime I'm entitled to for sticking me with 10 fucking kids for this long. You didn't say one word about the other children. You ignored my calls for nearly 5 days and just disappeared. I'm not paying you crap. The mother screamed at me. You called the fucking cops to take my children. No, I called because you fucking abandoned them. I shouted back. Just then, a black car pulled into the driveway where we were arguing. It was the husband. He came over to ask what was going on. He was out of town on a business trip and I told him the look on his face. Oh man. He pulled his wife into the house. You could have heard him down the street. Even if you were deaf in both ears, he came back out and approached me. Shannon, I want to apologize for the situation. I was out of town for work and didn't know about this. He said he then handed me a nice wad of cash. Thanked me for staying with his children. And I turned to leave. As I went to my car, I turned back and yelled at her. There isn't a snowball's chance in the seventh circle of heck I'm ever watching your children again. You told me there were only 2 and ended up looking for 10. You said you would be back in 5 hours and you were gone for 5 days. I didn't even stop to think about how that crap affected me and anything else I had going on. Fug you. I got in my car and left because of that selfish bench. I nearly lost my job. Luckily, I was able to get the responding officer to explain the situation. My parents had my children and were okay when I explained what happened. And that's not even the fucked up part. The fucked up part is that my so-called friend took her relative's side and ended our friendship. They tried to press charges against me for child endangerment and spread nasty rumors about me. The joke was on them in the end. I cut ties with my former friend, her relative ended up getting a divorce and her husband took the children. And yes, they blamed me for all that. I don't know what happened to them after that. I cut all of them out of my life.